In this video, we're going to be talking about all things not all things, but the next stage of adolescence that we need to cover for our classes. This video is going to touch on things like obviously the brain development during adolescence, but then also moral development, moral reasoning that usually develops fully in adolescence. So that's going to be the premise of this video. In a previous video, we talked about the attachment styles, and in class we talked about the physical changes that usually accompany adolescence, as well as sexual orientation and sexual desire that usually starts to show up in adolescence. So when we're looking at this image of the brain here and the growth of really the gray matter of the brain, what we see is that there are kind of this continual growth of brain maturation. So although Piaget, right, if we're thinking of cognitive development, talked about this like sudden change at around age 12 to the formal operations stage of Piaget, it looks really like this is more of a continuous development. Again, that kind of shows that Piaget's stages might not be so hard and fast as he thought they would be. But really, we see that it as the brain develops, right, it kind of goes, as I said before, from the inside out and then from the back to the front. And you can really see that in the image on the bottom of basically like the brain from the top of the skull, right? You can see that this maturation process occurs slowly, right, over time, and slowly encompassing the front parts of the brain. Okay, and we also probably remember that the prefrontal cortex is where we do our executive functioning, right? That is our, planning, judgment, metacognition, as we'll see in a second, how we think about thinking in general. And that's prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that's not fully yet developed during adolescence, but it's beginning to be so. So that's probably why teenagers are impulsive. Because they don't have that part of the brain that's fully regulated yet or fully developed yet to regulate those behaviors. Okay, so another aspect in cognitive development for adolescents is really this ability to think deeply and a new level of social awareness. So we know that adolescents are really concerned about their social standing. It's why you guys may have been really concerned about making friends and what your friends think of you and what others think of you and as they see you. Part of that is because of your newfound ability, thanks to the myelination process, to think about what others are thinking. This, while it develops much younger, right, the fact that there's the theory of mind, that things have a life of their own, but we also then gain the ability to think about what other people are thinking about us, right? So there's like that extra layer. Like I can think about what that person thinks of me, and if I think about that too long, that could either make me really happy or really sad, right? And when we can think about thinking, that's what we call metacognition, right? That we're able to think about thinking itself. So whether that's thinking about our own thinking, which is part of the reason why I have you guys do test corrections and tell me why you messed up, so that you can be reflective on your own thinking as you were taking the test. You can think about what others are thinking and what others are thinking about you. And you can also be thinking about ideals and start understanding like, hey, maybe there's some hypocrisy here, or maybe there's, some thing that is happening in my life that I don't really agree with anymore because of these external ideals that I have. And that level of moral reasoning is going to be the main part of this video. And that's the things that were developed by Lawrence Kohlberg, who devised the stage theory, just like Piaget, to talk about moral development being presented by moral dilemmas. So there's usually things that occur, and Kohlberg was really interested in their reasoning, not really their answer. So he didn't really care if they thought that like abortion was wrong. He was more interested into the reasons why they thought abortion was wrong or why they thought abortion was right. And he theorized that people progress through a series of 3 levels of moral development, each which can be broken down to 2 sublevels. You really are only going to need to know, for the most part, just the 3 major breakdowns. So first up, you have what's called the pre-conventional morality, or the pre-conventional level. This is mostly for younger children. You know, there's no real age groups here. It's just younger children, older children, and then adolescents. So, if you want to think before 5 or 6, that's probably a good rule of thumb. This pre-conventional level is based almost entirely on external authority. Anything that is punished is probably bad, and anything that's rewarded is probably good. So, they might say that, that something is wrong because you'll get thrown in jail if you do it, right? Stealing is wrong because, you'll get thrown in jail, you'll be punished. Or lying is wrong because if your parents find out, they'll punish you. Or vice versa, that, helping out others is good because, they gave me $1 and I should probably keep helping others out. So that's the pre-conventional level of morality, right? Something is right or wrong is determined by punishment and rewards. The conventional level is based off of other people's acceptance, right? So for Kohlberg, this is really just like based off of society, right? You can think of it towards that way, that it's really just about maintaining social order. So something is wrong because it's illegal is a conventional level of morality, right? That marijuana use, recreational use, is wrong because it's illegal, without ever really thinking about the merits of why that might be illegal or legal, why some things are legal, other things aren't, right? It's just based off of this is what society says, and this is what we have to follow. This is the moral reasoning in the conventional level of morality. And then finally, I kind of tease this a little bit, is the post-conventional morality. This is where you start determining your own ideals that you should live up to, right? Whether there's some sort of abstract ethical principle or some sort of other society rules that is seen as flexible as opposed to absolute. So basically, the post-conventional level is when you start having your own code of ethics that you can then make decisions based off of, what's the right thing to do here from my own ethical understanding, as opposed to me looking to some outside authority to tell me what's the right thing to do. For Kohlberg, he said most people, while he said younger children, older children, adolescents, he really thought that most people would be stopped in the conventional level. And you do see this a lot where people will say, oh, no, you don't do that because it's illegal, or, oh, you don't do that because it's already in jail, right? But there's no like conscientious objector, or there's no someone who's willing to, civil disobedience or something, right? Like breaking a law because the law is unjust, right? The understanding that a law can be immoral, right, is at the heart of this post-conventional level of thinking. So, segregation in the South in the 50s was the law. That's not a moral law, right? We would say that that's immoral. At least I would hope we would say that that was an immoral law, and people broke the law to show their moral opposition to it. So that's Kohlberg, who gives us the moral reasoning stages: the pre-conventional, conventional, post-conventional. Those are the ones you have to know. You need to know what they mean. You don't need to know these individual stages within, but you really do need to know that post-conventional is like your own code of ethics. Conventional is what society says, and pre-conventional is what's punished in terms of moral development. The last thing that we're going to end with here is identity development, and this is going to be a teaser for when we come back next week. Adolescence is seen as a time of developing your identity. That most adolescents try on many different hats, proverbially. They try new things. They want to see what fits. They rebel against their parents or their family or their dominant culture in their society, those kinds of things. And for the psychologist Erik Erikson, the main task of adolescence is to figure out who you are. So hopefully you're all in the process of doing that. If not, maybe you'll start to rebel and get a crazy hairstyle or facial piercings or things like that. I don't know if those things are rebellious anymore. I don't know. It's just me being older, I guess. I don't know. But the way that we're going to talk about this, and we'll go through each of these stages in particular. These are Erikson's stages. This is what we're going to be spending time doing next week. So make sure you're ready to tackle these issues for next week. If you want to read ahead, that's probably not a bad idea, just to make sure that you're all caught up for our conversation next week about Erikson. Okay, so in this video, we covered Kohlberg's moral reasoning, as well as some of the biological brain developments of adolescence. If you guys have any questions, you know how to reach me. Otherwise, I will see you next time that I see you.